Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with you today with an article from hotair.com dated August 6th, and it's called, in scare quotes, "I'm anti-Zionist, not anti-Semite," end quote there. So, of course, anybody that knows those are basically the same thing, and we're going to go into a bunch of people here that I hate, especially the first person who I legitimately loathe as a human being, and it's Mehdi Hasan. It says, "I follow Mehdi Hasan on X, so you don't have to," and that's the author of the article, not me, Jason. Says Hasan is the former MSNBC host who founded Zeteo News, if that's how, I'm not even sure if that's the right way to pronounce it, but that's what I'm doing because I don't care, because I hate Mehdi Hasan, and has been a strong advocate of radical Islam. And you can actually go find a video of him preaching about how everybody in the West is like infidels and all this stuff. So it's funny that keeps popping up, and I don't think he's ever disowned, or I think he's tried to say that, like, oh, I'm not like that anymore. It's like, nah, you are. So, continuing on, says that is no surprise given the fact that he is an adherent to the same sect of Islam, dubbed the Twelvers, as the Iranian Ayatollahs. I did not know that, okay. Says, you know, the guys who want to bring on the apocalypse in a war with Israel, who shout death to America, and say America is the great Satan and Israel is the little Satan. Twelvers are big advocates of taqiyya, which authorizes the deception of people in order to facilitate the advance of their cause. And it's usually people who are not Muslims is what that means too. So while he, Mehdi Hasan, spends a lot of time accusing others of deception, it's baked in his religious beliefs that he does so himself, so take that as you will. Yeah, the dude, I don't think I've ever heard him say a true thing. Says, I know what I think when Mehdi is feeding us his bile. Mehdi is a big fan of, crossing out his nephew, Hasan, and is enthusiastic backer of every anti-Semitic candidate out there, and is quite sensitive to accusations of anti-Semitism, arguing that it's Islamophobic to link opposition to the Israeli government or the existence of Israel to hatred of Jews. It's Islamophobic to link opposition... Okay. I mean, the guy is retarded, but anyway. And I don't know why I crossed out his... I get, though, he's making like a Hasan Piker reference here, but Hasan Piker, as far as I'm aware, is not in any way, shape, or form related to Mehdi Hasan, but I think it's just using the Hasan part just to kind of make just to draw a connection. Continuing on, it says, so it's no surprise that he is on the warpath accusing critics of Abdul El-Sayed of being Islamophobic. And that is the dude from Michigan who is the Democratic nominee, who is an extremist in himself. And then, of course, as soon as somebody, he basically, the New York Post says that he took over $150,000 from members of an alleged Hamas-linked group, which is the problem. And Mehdi Hasan says, and so it begins. Well, dude, you keep complaining about AIPAC, who has nowhere near the influence of the group that did this, which... if I remember, I don't want to say who it was just in case I get it wrong, but I did look, and it's like, you'll complain about that and not say that could be anti-Semitic, and I don't think that is, but you'll automatically come out and be like, Islamophobia. So then the author of the article here, David Strom, says, no, it began when El-Sayed went palling around with Islamists. He chose this path. He spent his last day of campaigning with America Deserved 9/11 Hasan Piker. Live with your choices. So it says, how dare anybody point out that El-Sayed is deeply aligned with the Muslim Brotherhood, which, by the way, is banned in actual Arab countries for being too extreme, okay? So just an FYI. It says, refused to mention the death of Ayatollah Khomeini because his supporters were upset that he was killed, and it's a good thing that that guy is dead, and that he pals around with the most visible anti-Semite in American politics these days, Hasan Piker, who doesn't care if Hamas raped Israeli women, which he has said. Excuse me. It says, my snide response to Hasan was taken exactly as you would expect by his non-anti-Semitic followers. And I love these people on X that say, okay, Jew, and it's like, is that supposed to be an insult? Like, trust me, I myself have been called worse things everywhere. And I'm like, that's like, I mean, being Jewish, I've made no secret of that. It's like, okay. It's like, okay, okay, man. Like, am I supposed to be offended by that? It says, and as this person says, I like Hasan Piker, so that's a positive for me. Well, you're a retard. And this person says, El-Sayed seems like someone who believes it could be better than a country ruled by the Epstein class. And that's a conspiracy theorist right there. This Candace Miller, if that's an actual person. So it says, so he goes back to the article, scrolling up, it says, okay, Jew, enough said, Jews bad, so El-Sayed good. It's such a black and white view of the world, and it's an absolutely ridiculous view of the world. It says, it's a sophisticated political statement, or at least as sophisticated as you would expect from a group of people whose entire political identity revolves around hating 0.2% of the world's population. Hasan, before he rose to stardom as an advocate for the left, was less circumspect about his views of non-Muslims. So here's what I was referring to earlier when I said there's a video of Mehdi Hasan out there that you can go look at where he's just a douche nozzle. Which I guess that doesn't really narrow it down. I'm talking about like the one where he's preaching against like infidels. It says, in old recordings that resurfaced this week but have percolated for years, Hassan compared non-Muslims and atheists to cattle. This is what exactly the thing I'm referring to, and included homosexuals in a long list of behaviors and categories which he said argued were transgressive of Islam. It's because they actually are, for Islam, transgressive. That would be a correct statement. And he says, all of these ulama unanimously agreed that at the very minimum, if Yazid was not a kafir, which are a whole bunch of words here that I don't know what they mean, says that at the very minimum he was a fasiq, a transgressor, a breaker of Islamic laws, a corrupt individual, a tyrant, a killer, a drunkard, a dog lover, because these people hate dogs. For all you people on the left out there that are cheering for the Muslims, like, they hate dogs and they're going to kill all of them if they get in charge. So just an FYI. This is a music lover, a homosexual, a pedophile, a secret deviant. A sexual deviant is what it says. Someone who slept with his own mother. Hassan says in an old recording of what appears to be a sermon on Islamic law. In this respect, the Quran describes the atheist as cattle of those who grow the crops and do not stop and wonder about this world, he said at another moment. So that's the end of his actual quoting there. And it's a nice guy, huh? He has, of course, apologized. He was being bombastic. No, that's how he feels. Says, or he wasn't yet up on his taqiyya. He sounds like he expected his role was to become an imam, not realizing that one day he would become the voice of Islam on American TV and X. Apology not accepted, Mehdi, and I absolutely would not accept his apology either. Says, I don't believe you, and obviously neither do your followers. When a one-word response is sufficient to rebut a point in your mind, Jew, it says everything I need to know. Every other word out of the mouths of such people amounts to attempts at obfuscation of the central fact. Hatred of Jews, and by extension America, because we have supported the Jews in Israel, motivates you guys. And then the DSA Watch account here. And then this stupid quote from Hassan Piker. This is Hassan Piker, if anybody didn't actually know who he was yet. He's one of the dumbest people you could possibly listen to. Like, he's a dumb person's idea of a smart person, because he is legitimately stupid. So he says, Hassan Piker calls the 700,000 plus Haley Stevens voters and the 51% of Michigan Democrats that did not vote for Abdul al-Sayed, quote, Islamophobic pieces of shit, end quote. Just because you didn't vote for somebody doesn't mean you're against what they stand for. Like, if you don't vote for a black person, that doesn't mean you're racist, okay? You don't vote for an Islamist who says he wants to basically destroy Western civilization and pals around with terrorists and people like Hassan Piker who are terrorist adjacent. That doesn't make you Islamophobic. By the way, Islamophobia is also a very natural thing, okay? It's not a thing that people should be... It's not a bad thing to be Islamophobic, is what I'm saying, okay? So we know what you really think about us and anybody who is not totally on board with the Jew hate. We are the Epstein class, Islamophobic and colonizers. We are the dhimmis who must pay the jizya. And I know what those things are. Yeah, you're not one of the Muslims and you have to pay a tax, okay, for not being a Muslim. So RNC research account here says Abdul al-Sayed defended the terrorist attack on a preschool in Michigan. So here's why Islamophobia, it's okay to be that, because they think things like this. I think it's just critical for us to understand that hurt people do hurt people, because the people who perpetrated the attack were actually like I think the brothers of a Hezbollah terrorist that was killed. And these guys were obviously like Hezbollah adjacent, says al-Sayed protects terrorists. And by the way, this chick right here is an actual congressperson in the United States, House of Representatives right now. This is Summer Lee. Okay, so just check her out, because she's also a moron. Typical progressive, doesn't have anything original to say about anything. And so he said, hurt people, and says this is the exact same response he had to a Hezbollah-inspired terrorist attacking a synagogue and preschool in Michigan. So, yeah, so what I'm saying is correct anyway. Does America deserve 9/11? A sentiment that Abdul al-Sayed refused to condemn as he stood smiling with Hassan Piker. Call it blowback, or hurt people, or whatever you like. It's not tough to understand what that really means. And this is the National Republican, whatever it is, I know it's Republican group, debuts the first attack ad in U.S. Senate Michigan race against Abdul al-Sayed. Yeah, he's going to have a lot to overcome there, okay, because I think they said those Haley Stevens voters are going to shift over to Mike Rogers, who's the Republican Senate candidate. They're not going to go along with this guy, and if that's the case, Abdul al-Sayed is not going to go very far. So it says Mehdi is just the Oxford-educated version of Hassan Piker, only, if anything, more radical. Hassan Piker is essentially a communist revolutionary, while Mehdi Hassan is a follower of the Iranian mullahs. The large overlap in their Venn diagram is hating Jews and Westerners. Yeah, so these are just bad people, and Abdul al-Sayed is just hiding his true motivations, but you can always go look at stuff they said before and realize, like, oh, that's actually what they think, but now that he's, like, being thrust more into the national spotlight, it's, oh, no, I gotta calm down. That's not That's kind of typical for, I should say, like everybody, especially the Democrats that they keep propping up because they have such radical ideas that they need to like tone them down when they go to the general election, kind of like James Tallarico in Texas is basically doing the same thing as well. So again, it's not unique to Abdul al-Sayed, but knock it off with the Islamophobia stuff, okay? When Islam is responsible for tens of thousands of terrorist attacks, like in the last 30 or 40 years, and killed tens of thousands of people, I think Islamophobia is kind of a normal reaction to something, okay? So let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.